I really want to network with lots more people. It was more about networking people at volume rather than the same people. Rang me up a week later and said, we'll add another 20 to it. And I'm like, this is now getting ridiculous. And that's when it got to the point I was like, okay, let's have the conversation at least. And being able to walk upstairs, sit back down at your desk and go looking for my next opportunity, and then have your phone ring like with 5 or 6 people within an hour. And there was a point there where I had to actually send my family away to the coast for a week just so I could get enough brain space.
If you open the door, the universe will throw something at you. Hello everyone, my name's Graham Strang, and I hope my younger self is listening. Episode 24. Tonight we have someone I've known a very long time, the Director of Toowoomba Security Cameras, Co-Director of Toowoomba.com.au and Toowoomba Business Partners, Mr. Brendan Golby.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you think we should get straight into it?
Sounds great.
Sounds great. So, tell me about Brendan. Tell me where does Brendan come from? Where did he start?
Oh, geez. That's a very open-ended question. I guess, the start for me was I grew up on a farm in Thornlands in Brisbane, and was there until I was about 12, and then we moved to Toowoomba. Probably my earliest, thoughts around the farm was, sort of having my own parsley lines, things like that we used to. That used to be my sort of little business when I was first growing up, and then then we moved into Toowoomba, and then I guess everything just sort of slid into.
With the farm, I ask a lot of people, do you miss the freedom?
I do miss the space.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We had 32 acres, and then we moved to Toowoomba with 800 square metres. It was very much a culture shock. Yeah.
I miss just being able to disappear for a bit, no one really caring where you were or what you were doing.
Yeah, there was definitely a fair bit of that going on, and I guess you sort of look back at it as you look back to your parents, and you're like, why were they allowing us to find our own way?
So school-wise, where did you go to school in Brisbane or?
So did primary school in Brisbane, and then came to Toowoomba, and then finished grade 7, and then through high school here in Toowoomba.
So where did you go to school in Toowoomba?
So Rangeville for primary school, and then Centenary Heights for high school.
Centenary Heights, the green uniform.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Green and yellow. Yep. Were
you always entrepreneurial, even at that high?
I think there was definitely little bits and pieces of that. Like I was saying before, the parsley business was my little thing. That we had our couple of lines of parsley that we were sort of responsible for, and then we would pick them. We would then send them off to markets, and then whatever money we made out of that was ours. So we had our own brand, we had our own everything. So, and that was, it would have been.
So was that
10?
Your parents teaching you that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it sort of started from.
So what made the move to Toowoomba then?
So that particular move was based on my parents going different directions. Then we ended up in Toowoomba, and then my father ended up staying in Brisbane.
So it says you worked 2 jobs through high school to fund self-development. That is a very, very heavy statement.
So my high school was, I guess, a little bit different to most. I worked in a fruit shop called High Street Fruit Mart.
Is it still there?
No, well and truly gone these days. So before High Street had its big development. So I worked there every afternoon, and then up until lunchtime on a Saturday. And then I had a gig at a corner store in Rangeville from basically midday on Saturday and then all day Sunday. So my claim to fame at high school was getting paid to do my homework.
So you never had much time for anything else but school and work then?
Yeah, it was a very, very busy time.
Were you pushed to do that, or was that a choice?
No, I think growing up in a single parent sort of arrangement means that you sort of become, I guess, look after your own finances a lot, and that was a way for me to contribute to, and not be a burden on the family budget and everything. So
Well, it's amazing what you go and do when if you need money, you got to find a way to get it.
correct, yeah.
Like I can remember watching cricket gear at boarding school and Dad going, "Well, that's nice. How are you going to pay for it?"
Yes, yeah.
And so I went with the big dream of the Greg Chappell catalogue, and I came back with a book on how to make money. And I ended up working on one of my school teachers' farms most weekends driving machinery because I had to earn money. I got the cricket gear eventually.
I guess that's just the way that it all comes together, and yeah.
So if you've gone from fruit marts, what was the other job?
Well, so the other job was a corner store. So basically, that is the Saturday afternoons and all day Sundays, I'd have people just coming and going from a corner store, but there'd be a lot of spare time in that, which was great because I could have my, homework and all that kind of stuff there, and I'd be able to do that in between.
So you did that right through the end of grade 12?
Yep.
So when did you get into selling mobile phones?
So once I finished school, back in 2000, actually the story is my mum actually went for a job at Phone Zone, and then she's like, "Oh, it's not really for me, but it might interest my son." And so then at the time I was actually working as a property manager for Remax at the time, and I decided to give that a miss, and then I actually jumped into the mobile phone world, and that's where it all started.
Nothing quite teaches you how to sell when it's hawking a phone or two, is it? Because not just the phone, it's everything else that goes with it.
Yeah, back then it was the phone, it was the plan, it was the
Extended
accessories, extended warranty. It's
Extended warranties.
yeah, there was every little slice of it, but it was a great job. I went all around Australia. I ended up even going over to Western Australia and doing a bit of a gig over there while they took over another business.
So they were sending you over to do that, or that was you following the...
No, they'd pick people out of the business and go, "Hey, we've just bought a business. You're on a plane tomorrow morning to Perth, and so your job was to, make sure things didn't go bad during the changeover, and you come to work and they say, "Oh, tomorrow you're working at Sunshine Plaza tomorrow." The next day, you're not working at Kingaroy tomorrow, or or a Brisbane store. But predominantly it was all Toowoomba based most of the time.
And the skill set you got out of that. So you must have done that for a couple of years.
4 years.
4 years.
Yep.
Did you end up with that following of people that they would not get their phone, or if their phone glitched, they had to come and see you?
It was very much there would be 4 or 5 staff members in the office, in the shop, and people would line up out the door just to see me and wouldn't actually see the rest of the people in the actual shop. So it was, at times it was good for me, and at times it was a bit of a burden. But
did you cop any flack?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I definitely have a lot of flack, but people just seem to be very loyal to me. And back then it was all a commission-based job as well. So
everyone wanted them because they were getting paid. So did you burn out of that, or it just didn't in the end?
No, at the end of that, I was poached by Telstra directly, and then I worked as the acquisition manager for Telstra countrywide for quite a few years.
How did that stack up to being in the hot seat in a retail store?
I guess the difference is one's outbound and one's inbound.
Yeah.
So the retail stores were very much an inbound situation. The acquisition manager was very much an outbound role. So he was about getting very, very good at the numbers around what is someone currently paying with another provider versus, what sort of deals could Telstra do to bring them back at the time.
So it's an interesting just listening to you going through that whole journey. Were you back then still, because you and I talk a lot about the different books and, influencers and podcasters and streamers. Did you have any books back then you were reading along the path, or when you're doing all these jobs about how to make it, how to build a business, how to make money?
Yeah. I mean, probably my favourite one was the Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was the sort of one that sort of set the brain in motion, the quadrants of it all, and really started to understand the difference between employees in business and investors and things like
I think
that.
that was one of the first books I read that basically screamed, know your number, know your numbers,
Yep.
know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, go and find out. Do you have any other books that you were reading along that time that jumped out at you?
I think there was such a variety of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some cash flow quadrant ones, other ones within the Robert Kiyosaki world, but it's sort of diversed into a lot of different business books, and the how to win friends and influence people, and all those sort of I guess books of that age. I guess we're all on the list.
So you've done all that. You've got to there. We're in Toowoomba. You've bounced halfway around the world, or halfway around Australia, I should say. Where did networking come into it? So
networking was an interesting journey. Well, back in that early sort of Telstra days, I started attending sort of a BNI fortnightly networking group. I did that for 7 years, and being in that sort of internet and mobile phones and home phones sort of era, and it was quite a I guess you'd say quite a profitable era for me, because from a referral point of view, everybody knew someone who needed a mobile phone or someone who needed internet fixed or whatever, and that became a very I guess a busy time for me around that. As time grew on, I transitioned through a couple of other roles, and it wasn't until later on that I was looking for more and more ways to network myself, and I was looking at, I guess, the different networking options around the place, and I sort of got to the point where I was like, I really want to network with lots more people. It was more about networking people at volume rather than the same people all the time.
Yeah.
And that triggered a whole nother cascading, I guess, wave of events that I started creating myself.
Because I remember really early on, it was the Who Wants a Coffee?
Yes, yeah.
Was that at the engine room?
It was the first one.
Yeah, it was the engine room.
So
I didn't go to the first one. I think I was second or third.
Yeah.
But it absolutely blows me away watching you go from that to you would have put on a couple of hundred events by now.
Yeah, definitely.
But the glory day, those early glory days were lots of fun. No rules.
Well, I guess it was just trying to bootstrap it to a certain degree. It was sort of like, does anyone want to have coffee with me on Friday, and then have 30 people turn up? And you're like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Okay, let's do that again next month. And then 60 people turn up. And then the coffee shop's like, hey, mate, we can't do more than we can't do 60 people for coffee. This model doesn't work for us. And that's when I got very lucky, and I ran into a guy who ended up being the general manager of the Burke and Wills. And he just said to me one day, he said, look, I'll provide the room. Everyone buys their own drink. I'll put on some food, and let's just see what happens. And we put on the third event, and we had 130 people turn up. And that's sort of where it started to sort of spiral from there.
But I've been to them, and there's been a lot more than 130 people at some of your events.
Yeah, no, we definitely had quite a few that were up in the 200s, 300s, 400s.
What's your biggest?
The one we did at the Clive Berghofer Grand Atrium at Clifford Park, we had about 400 people turn up for the night. So
that's right. That was Max and Amanda and Bron and someone else standing on the front gate handing out vouchers.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was a big event, and I guess the thing about it is we were just trying to provide opportunities for people to come to these events. That was a free event from memory.
Yep.
We got, I think it was about 20 or so different businesses that all put in $50 or $100 each, I think it was, and we used that money to basically pay for the food,
Yep.
the venue itself. They gave us the venue for free, but everyone just bought their own drinks. So if someone wanted to have 10 drinks, they buy 10 drinks. If someone didn't want to have a drink, they didn't buy a drink. And it was one of those scenarios that it was quite fair and equitable for everyone. So
yeah, and you would have known the person who bought 10 drinks.
Yeah. They're the loudest person in the room. Yeah.
But also, the one thing I always loved about that model is everyone balks at the cost of a networking event. You know, all of a sudden, it's $50, $40, $80, depending on what you're going to. But that whole model of like, you know, it's whatever you spend. You can drink water for all I care. Just turn up.
Just turn up, network, and leave if that's what you want to do.
So, where did LinkedIn come into it then?
So LinkedIn is quite an interesting one. I was working as a document management specialist at a local printing company, and the owner of the business had gone off and bought some LinkedIn premium memberships for all the staff, and most of the staff had no idea what LinkedIn was at the time. And what ended up happening was I ended up having a one-on-one phone call every month with this one lady from LinkedIn. And, you know, being one-on-one, I got to ask her all these other questions. What is everyone else doing? Got very curious about, how else you can use LinkedIn. Where are you seeing the wins around the world? She was based in America. And from there, it sort of started to evolve. And then we started talking about, LinkedIn groups. So I was like, oh, okay, I've got 400 people connected to me. I'll invite them to a group, and we'll call it something generic, like was Toowoomba Queensland Community LinkedIn group. And so the 400 people I invited to that group, 100 of them joined, and then over time, that group then started to have, a couple of thousand people in it. And then I could just post into that group and say, hey, I'm having an event, buy your ticket from, well, not buy your ticket, but grab your ticket from here most of the time.
Yeah.
So,
and it just fascinates me watching that whole path, because I was in the middle of all that with you, and just watching the people just coming, always found it just the diverse range of people, and the people had no clue. They're just like, I'm here. It just looked really interesting.
Yeah.
What are we at again?
Yeah. Well, there was definitely a fair bit of that going on. But I guess the thing about it is it was just giving people an opportunity to bump into someone, introduce themselves to someone, and I guess watch that ripple effect flow through their life, and find out, I guess, where those opportunities flow on from there.
What are some of the lessons you've learned behind the scenes of organising a networking event?
It takes a lot of work in the background that a lot of people don't see what work it actually takes. It's very much a database driven thing. It's about, how are you going to let people know that the events are on?
Yep.
And back at the time, it was like, how am I going to let people know cost effectively when the events are on? So, it was email, and there was SMS, and there was LinkedIn event invitations. There was, and, at the same time, it was about growing visibility for myself. Going from 400 connections on LinkedIn when I first started those conversations, within 2 years, going from 400 to 18,000, and understanding what actually takes. Most people didn't see what was going on in the background, and the hours and hours a day I would spend.
The name tags.
Yeah.
How many of them have you put together?
Oh, yeah. I definitely have a lot of name tags, and even to this day, I do the name tags manually. Mail merge them, but basically guillotine them out, put them in manually, and I guess it's one of those things. It's trying to create something a little bit different.
So we've covered a fair bit there around the networking, around early childhood, those sorts of things, work life. What was your first business?
First business. I guess the first one that I was like fully in, where I was the owner of the business and stuff, was a business called Phone Gurus. So Phone Gurus was a business that did mobile phones, internet, and sort of networking based products.
So how did you transition from Phone Gurus to networking to security cameras?
Yeah, so I guess as things changed, it was I guess looking at different opportunities that were around at the time. What I found was that I was getting headhunted very heavily there for quite a while, because I had a specialty around sales and I had a specialty around technical. Those were the two that were generally very rare. People who are very good at sales are generally not very good at the details of technical, and people who are very good at the technical generally don't like people. So it's a very unique sort of arrangement. And back at the time, there was a particular recruitment company here in Toowoomba, and he rang me up one day and he said, "These guys would like to offer you this amount of money." And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I'm not interested." Rang me up a week later and said, "We'll add another 20 to that." And I said, "Oh, no, I'm right. I'm good, thanks." Rang me up a week later and said, "We'll add another 20 to it." And I'm like, this is now getting ridiculous. And that's when it got to the point I was like, okay, let's have the conversation at least. And that was the turning point of then going back and working for someone else.
Because it's amazing what a ridiculous offer will do, isn't it?
And that was sort of the what led me back into the technical side of things. And I worked there for 2 years as a document management specialist. So my role there was to help businesses go paperless and build workflows and basically build back-end systems allowing paper or forms to flow through a business. So then 2 years into that, the product we were using, they decided to pull out of that particular product, took a redundancy. And it was the interesting thing is that during that 2 years is when I'd built the LinkedIn, I'd built my LinkedIn connections, I'd built the visibility on LinkedIn, I'd created quite a public profile. And being able to walk upstairs, sit back down at your desk and go looking for my next opportunity, and then have your phone ring like with 5 or 6 people within an hour and say, "Hey, when can we sit down and have do an interview with you and see whether you can come work for us?" And I thought that was the strangest thing that, like having to, normally people, when they have a redundancy or something like that, they'll go, "Okay, look, I'll go have a look on Seek and let's see what jobs are available, and then I'll get my resume ready and I'll go and send it out." Whereas this was more like, typing a little update on your LinkedIn and then suddenly having people ring you and say, "Oh, I'm interested in having a chat to you."
Did you enjoy the compliment?
It was nice. Having said that, but my wife was just about to have a baby in about a month's time, so the timing was just spectacular. In the fact that, I didn't actually take another job for nearly 3 months. I had a couple of jobs sitting there, and that was the time where actually there was a guy in Golby who rang his boss in the Gold Coast and said, "You need to ring this guy and make a time to come up and see him." And basically, I got a call from Damien about a week later, and he said, "Yep, cool. Sorry, it wasn't a week later. It was pretty much on the same day, actually." Rang me up and said, "Hey, I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to drive to Toowoomba. Can I meet you at the park house and can we have a bit of a chat?" And I was like, "Oh, sure. I've got nothing else to do today. Let's have a chat." And
calendar. Yeah, fine.
Yep, I'm free. And and that was the start of working for the Black Toyota Group. So
I was actually talking to Jane the other day. Isn't it interesting how the opportunities twist and move with it all? Like, I just love how if you open the door, the universe will throw something at you.
And it was definitely like if I'd seen the job ad, it wouldn't have been something I'd even would have applied for.
No,
but yeah.
But they're the best jobs, the ones that come and find you. So this probably ties in a lot of the philosophies that you work with, because it's all, I know that you work a lot on local reputation, that referrals, whether it's in your work life or building a business, those things are the things that accelerate you. I noticed that we were talking about it the other day with the Toowoomba Security Cameras, how just tidying up some of your social media and basic internet data.
Yep.
All of a sudden you've been able to then X times what you're doing because you're now findable correctly and everyone's going, "Hello."
Yes. Yeah. It's it definitely. visibility creates opportunity. That's the biggest thing that I've said anywhere. And I guess it's in a trade business, the hard thing about more visibility is being able to manage the demand then too. So
Yeah, not let people down. We've been through the rapid growth and continued rapid growth here. At times, there are days when you're just like, sometimes your most powerful word is no, because that actually enhances your reputation of someone comes to you and he goes, look, thank you very much for the opportunity, but I can't help you, because I'll let down my other customers, and they're the good customers who appreciate that and probably stay on the phone with you. How have you gone, especially with the Toowoomba Security Camera side, gone with that whole, I just can't fit you in right now?
Yeah, it's very much a challenge as you're building a business to, basically say, hey, at the moment right today I'm about 3 to 4 weeks booked out. So it's about having that conversation up early to say, look, and then I guess it's being able to manage that as well and say, hey, look, if you need it done quicker, I can help you find someone who can do it quicker. But if you want me to specifically do it, then, this is the time frame that we're sort of working through at the moment.
Well, and also, one of the big challenges in the world at the moment is your available trades. It's not just you going into the house. There are other jobs you need trades to do to be able to open up, finish, complete. Getting hold of them at times blows your delivery time many times.
Yes, yeah. Very true.
One of the things we're talking about leads before, lead generation is something you've done really well. One thing you said to me the other day is that's really one of your challenges is actually dealing with all the communication coming to you going, I'm looking for cameras, I'm looking for cameras, I'm looking for cameras, I'm looking for cameras. And now you've got multiple platforms. How do you manage that?
It's something that is at times quite difficult. I'll have, your traditional means are someone will give you a phone call or someone will send you a text message. But then you've also got, someone will send you an email, or someone will go to your website and fill out a web form. Someone will go to your Facebook, send you a message on Facebook.
And sometimes they're all the same person.
Yeah. Someone will send you a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram or something. So it's being able to, put aside that admin time where you're going to go, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to reply to all these messages, on all these platforms separately. And it's just making time for that, because that's sort of, part of the relationship side of things with your clients as well.
Oh, and I think you're lucky in the fact that you're so used to doing all that it's probably easier for you. If it was someone starting out, would you have a bit of advice for them if they get that rush like that?
Yeah, it's definitely something that it's got to be a priority. If you spend all this time, money and effort in inquiring clients, you've got to then, put the time, money and effort into, nurturing them through their cycle of things. And, I guess to a certain degree, however they want to talk to you, it is somewhere you've got to be available to have that conversation.
If you want to book them in and create the relationship, you've just got to. One thing we missed in talking about the networking side of things is that talk to us about running 40 networking events in 90 days across Australia with no database.
So that was a very interesting conversation. I was running a networking event here in Toowoomba, and I essentially stumbled across a business coach who was sort of doing these little events here in Toowoomba. Was sort of getting, probably around 20 people turn up to these events. They were free events, they were City Golf Club, 3 hours, and, he sort of had a bit of a spiel. And I said to him, just jokingly, I said, would you ever want to come up and be a guest speaker at one of my events? And he said, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. So I ended up putting on an event for him, and, we had, I think it was 100 people in the room, and he, at the time, signed up 13 of them to his business coaching course. And he's like, oh, this is a pretty interesting thing. I've never signed up 13 clients in one room before. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Do you want to do it again in 6 months? And he said, yeah, let's do it again. But I said, rather than a breakfast, let's do a dinner. So I put on a dinner for him, and we had 200 people turn up. And out of that 200, he had 17 people sign up to his business coaching 12-month plan. And I thought, oh, well. And he sort of came back to me and he said, hey, we're going to be doing this marketing workshop down at the Gold Coast. I bring my whole team in together. We talk about what worked well, what didn't work well. And, I'd like you to sort of come down for the day and get a bit of understanding of our business at the same time. And I want you to, we're going to ask you a few questions about how the events went. And I sort of didn't know what I was in for at the time. And right at the end of the day, he got me up and he said, hey, here's Brendan. He's going to tell us how you're going to run, 40 different networking events in 90 days. And just the concept of that just blew my brain. Understanding that one event takes 4 to 6 weeks of hard work to do, let alone trying to do 40 of them in every little town around Australia. So that was a very much a challenge. I had to learn a lot of new skills. And there was a point there where I had to actually send my family away to the coast for a week just so I could get enough brain space to actually,
I actually remember health checking you in the middle of that. I remember ringing you and going, are you okay? And you're like, I'm fine. I mean, because you were doing 21-hour days.
Yeah.
I remember it distinctly.
Yeah.
Because I'm going, when did you last sleep? And you're like, that's beside the point. I've got to get this done.
Yeah. It was a full-on sort of thing. But I learned a lot about lead generation. I learned a lot about dashboards. I learned a lot about managing virtual assistants. And it was all about, the whole thing was huge, but when you break it down to, what are all the things we have to do for every single event, and how do we make sure that we do that? How do we put dates we have to be done by? And, what is the software that we're going to be using? And that was the challenge to it all was, understanding who we're going to invite to these events and where are we going to find these people. And then, the few very, very late nights talking to Ukrainian growth hackers, we managed to find a solution.
So, and you managed to pull it off?
I did.
Would you do it again?
No. It was a once-off challenge, that one.
Oh, look, but that was also one of the things that I think felt set you on the path too, because everyone you talked to about that said you couldn't do it. I think I was probably one of them going, mate, I think you're mad.
Yeah, there was definitely, you'd have to be a little bit mad to even attempt it. And but we did, we put on 40 events all around Australia. There was a couple that got flooded out with with some of the floods in New South Wales, but we ended up moving them to different locations very quickly, and still ended up having them on, and overall quite a successful
and one of
events.
I also felt that for your personal brand, those sorts of things, that really expanded you out, because all of a sudden your expansion went from Toowoomba throughout Australia. All of a sudden everyone knew who Brendan Golby was, because you were this mad person trying to put on all these events. Did you have any points through that process where you thought, oh, this is just too much, I can't do it?
The biggest challenge that we had was actually having a database of businesses, but really only wanting to send invitations to businesses that were within a certain distance of the event.
Yeah.
And that took me a while to crack, but we managed to integrate the Google Maps API into a Google spreadsheet. And that was the trick. That was the moment. We were basically able to go, if this business here is within a certain driving distance of the event venue, then they were basically at the top of the list, and everything else just got trashed. And that was the way that we were able to filter out who we invite to an event, rather than inviting people who the event location wasn't relevant to them. So,
look, I still take my hat off to that. And it actually works well, because, one of the things I talk a lot about in business and all this and everything we do is mental health. I know that took a big toll on you doing that. You've had some setbacks in doing all in a lot of the whether it's business or networking, whatever it might be. What are some of the setbacks you've had, and how have you been able to move them forward and keep going?
I guess when things aren't going to plan, you've either got to take it on as a learning lesson, or you've got to take it on as something that is a sort of a part of your growth, whether that's in business or personal. But mental health is definitely something that, it affects people's confidence when their mental health is not right. And I think there's a lot of times where you've really got to sit back and you go, well, look at all these great things that we've achieved. And those are the times you need to reflect on those things.
Yeah.
Because I think the things that go bad are generally only just that small window of time, and you don't want it to sort of explode into your whole life. My view on that is really, you've really just got to have some good people around you, and also good people that you can sort of bounce things off and sort of go, hey, this happened, this really didn't go well, maybe I could have handled it better. Or on the flip side, this happened, I really don't know how I could have managed it differently, because it was not something that I had control over. It happened, but you didn't have control over it. So it's just trying to control the things you can control, and the rest you've sort of really got to find a way to, manage, I guess, to a certain degree.
Yeah. And some of it, you've just got to let it pass.
Yeah.
You've just got to go, okay, it didn't work.
At the end of it, you sort of look at it and go, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And you move on.
Well, and you and I are a classic case. Look how many times we've rung each other, and it's just tired, bit drawn.
Yeah.
Hello, what's happening at your end? And then next thing you know, you and I will have been talking for 45 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
Not about anything in particular, but I'm always better for it. Because you get off the other end of the phone and you're like, I have no idea what we just talked about.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a bit of a debrief. Other times it's just trying to, put reason to certain things.
Yeah.
So, it could be people around us, could be businesses doing interesting things in the marketplace, could be, I think the sharing of ideas is
phenomenal.
Is really something that is underrated.
Absolutely. That's why I find I gain energy. All of a sudden, if it's flowing and it's positive, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can do something with that.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into the section called what you wish you knew earlier. When you first got into business to now, what is something that you wish you knew when you were starting out your phone business?
I think the biggest thing is, building your network before you need it, and basically starting to, I guess, take a bit of a note of, what is your personal network look like? What does your business network look like? What does your, professional network look like? And really start to create as many opportunities as you can to build them as early as possible. There's been so many times where it's the business network that drags you through. It's the, or it could be your personal network of friends that are like, hey, yep, I'll help you with this. Or it's just those things. If you can get a few brownie points out there before you need them, that's a win also.
What's like one of the things I see a lot of is it's about you're either not asking enough questions, you're not being curious enough, or you're trying to reinvent the wheel. Do you think that too many businesses starting out try to reinvent the wheel rather than finding someone who knows what they're doing?
Yeah, I think it's really one of those things in business that I guess sometimes you work in a business long enough, you get to a point where you can see the opportunities, but the business has been around for so long that it's, this is how we've always done it. This is how we will always do it. And you sort of sit back and look at it and go, I can do this much more cost effectively. I can do this better. I can deliver this easier. I can create a different model. But it's always about trying to work out what's going to be the end result for the client, really. What is the client experience going to be better? And if you sort of work from there backwards, you'll generally do well.
What's a mistake you see new small business owners make regularly?
I think it's not being curious enough. I think it's really about not asking enough questions of their clients, not getting into the nitty gritty of, the product or service that they provide, but it's also trying to get to a point where they can have very deep technical expertise in a particular niche. In my business, I've very heavily niched into security cameras because it's very hard to, and then inside of that, I've very niched heavily into a brand of security cameras too, which has its own, benefits and disadvantages. But the thing about it is that if you get really niched into something, you get very good at it, and you'll find that it's a lot easier to sell, it's a lot easier to install, a lot easier to provide support for a product you have a very deep understanding of.
And you believe in it.
Yeah. Oh, and you have to believe in it, otherwise you're in the wrong industry.
How many good salespeople and business people have you seen with a great product, but they don't believe in it?
Yeah.
And they just can't sell it. And
it's as a salesperson, I sold houses for 4 or 5 years, and I was very lucky to work in Toowoomba for a very, very good builder, which was Golby Constructions, and I sold 166 houses in 12 months. You can't do that if you've got a terrible brand or a terrible product. So it's very much around, if you've got to have a product that you're confident is the best in the market.
What's the hardest lesson you've learned so far?
So probably the hardest lesson I've learned is that whether you're an employee or whether you're a business owner, you really need to invest in your own expertise outside of the business, outside of your day-to-day job role. Really take the time and effort in your own time, make the investment in your own skill set. The quicker and faster that you do that, it will accelerate your progression through the business or progression as an employee.
Personal brand. It's amazing. Doesn't matter if you're working someone for not. If you can accelerate yourself, those 6 phone calls you got when you were made redundant, and you put that in there, your personal brand is what brought those offers to your table.
Correct. Yep.
Not just from you sitting behind a desk.
And the many, many hours,
Many hours
of and I think a lot of that time and effort was put into that process, not really knowing what the outcome was going to be. It was blind faith that something good was going to come out the other end of it.
Now, I know it's fairly recent, but have you ever tried to do the impossible?
Yeah. So, having I guess a full suite of projects underway at the time, and we had a client recently who rang me up and said, "Hey, we're currently building a building. We've got a builder who's organised, who's building a building, and we've just thought about the fact that we're going to need cameras and internet and all those kind of things, access control and Wi-Fi and all these products that need to be designed and put in. And generally, it's not something you just do overnight. And we really need to have it done within the next 2 weeks because that's when they're going to plaster the walls." And it was definitely one of those challenging times where you're sort of like, you really, part of you wants to say, no, it's too late. And the other part of you wants to say, you know what, I reckon we can probably get this done, but we're just going to have to pull some all-nighters to make it happen. Not just from a design point of view, from a quoting point of view, from an actual pulling cable point of view, to actually finding a combined solution that's going to work. It was definitely a challenge, but the flow and effect of that has been that the builders seen this come on late, seen us get the job done, and now there's a flow-on relationship with that builder as well now.
Do you feel a certain satisfaction in you being able to pull these sorts of things off? And I'm talking about 40 networking events. I'm talking about possible CCTVs. I know you that I've done a number of these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Is there a little bit of pride in you that goes, you know what? No one else could have done that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always that challenge where you sort of go, I've done the impossible, and I guess sometimes it's that sometimes you need that person to tell you that's ridiculous. You're never going to be able to do that, which gives you the motivation to actually get out there and actually achieve it.
Do you think your 18-year-old self would believe that you're doing all this now?
I think my 18-year-old self was still trying to figure out his direction at the time, but I think at the same time it's having such a diverse history, job history, over the last 25 years has allowed me to pull expertise from all different roles and then basically apply that to the, whatever I'm doing at the time. So
I've got one for you. If you could give your 18-year-old self a sentence right now, what would you tell him? Buy Bitcoin doesn't count.
I think there's definitely some buy some Bitcoin.
It's not in here. I've just pulled this question out.
Okay, you've tricked me on this one. So I'd say invest in yourself. I'd say, if you can't surround yourself with the right mentors, then put your head in a book with the right mentors. That would be probably the biggest thing I could say would be, go back and read more books. That would be my one biggest lesson to my younger self.
If you're from around here, chances are you've had something embroidered, print or pressed by us. And if you haven't, come look us up. Now we're on to the book of questions.
Ooh.
Kylie Martin from GF Oates has left you a question in here. You get to read it out, answer it, and then write your own question in there.
Kylie question is, what things do you do to empower your team?
Well, I think you can think outside the box in that one because you are your own team.
Yes, yeah.
But you do have a whole networking group of people that you work with and try to work with every fortnight to empower them.
I think making sure your team know that you're there to, always support them is probably the first thing. The second thing would be around creating transparency between the team and the leadership of the business, and allowing people the opportunity to fail as well. I think is the other one. Is a
massive one.
Is really, if they fail, come to me and tell me you failed, but tell me what you've learned from it, and
how did you solve the problem?
How did you solve it moving forward? What have you learnt from it? I think it's probably the big thing, and understanding that everyone has their own environments, their own pressures, their own work stuff, home stuff, and just trying to create that level of transparency and understanding between the whole team.
That's a pretty good answer. I reckon that knocks it on. Now you get to pick up the pen and write your question in there.
Yeah. So do you want me to...
You don't read it out?
Don't read it.
It goes in the book? I don't even know what it is.
Alrighty, Done.
Excellent. We'll see who I've got next to answer that one. So, Toowoomba Security Cameras and Toowoomba Business Partners. What's upcoming? What's happening for you?
So, on the Toowoomba Security Camera side, I guess our goal and our mission is to try and find a way to help 1,000 families a year to help and assist them with good quality security cameras they can rely on. What's coming up for that world is that I'm heading down to Sydney to go to one of the biggest security expos to sort of try and learn what's coming next. And if everything goes well, hopefully China towards the end of the year to sort of see some of the emerging security products that we won't see in Australia for a couple of years. From a networking point of view, we've got some speed networking events that are coming up, and what we'd really like to do is sort of start to bring back some of our sort of evening networking events. So that's something that we've got some ideas and process at the moment. So
that sounds like a plan. Vision-wise, I love this line. You got a little line here that says, "Toowoomba business professionals sharing ideas and challenges." Is that the vision that you've got? That vision you've got there, is that tie back into what you always say in the business partners?
Being able to, I guess the vision is, trying to create more opportunities for, I guess, the whole business network, all business professionals in the network. Allow them to, swap ideas, share their sort of challenges, ask for help, and they basically find ways to lift each other up is probably the end result of it all.
Excellent. That's just about us, But you look at a camera there and tell people where to find Toowoomba Security Cameras and also Toowoomba Business Partners.
Yeah, so you'll find Toowoomba Security Cameras are quite easily able to Google us. You'll find our website, and you'll find our Google My Business listing. You'll be able to see any sort of testimonials and things that we've been able to put together. The Toowoomba Business Partners is a fortnightly business group, and that business group is a one business per category group that we bring a whole team of people together in a way of, creating and fostering those relationships long term.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for watching The Hard Way. You can find The Hard Way on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. You just search The Hard Way by Graham Strang or Tip Pocket Toowoomba, either way you'd like. Either way, mate, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
It was great.
Thank you.
And done.